Hello, friends, and welcome to the second part of my uh, introduction of my trip to Peru and Chile in September 2024. Last time we ended it around the golf course at Pucón in Chile, and this time I'd like to share taking up from that point if I can. And What's that? Zoom is requesting something or other. Okay, back to the meeting. Okay, so there we have the. I hope you can see that. Let me see what you can see. You are screen sharing, but what am I screen sharing exactly? I'm sharing the whole of my desktop. That's not what I want. I want this. Share this. All right, so now I'm sharing my Google Photos, and you've got you can see the volcano there in the middle, and myself, I was on the pirate ship there, and let's see if we can just scroll down a bit. That's the tricky part. Okay, well, first you have to sort of. Okay, now I can scroll down. Um, okay, so I returned from Villarica area to Santiago, well, to the airport. This is Santiago Airport, as you can see. Actually, it's probably easier to do it this way without going into individual um, photographs too much. Let's see if I can. Oh, yes, well, it's going to happen sometimes, but I just want to keep going down. Um, okay, so this is leaving Santiago and flying up to uh, Atacama area, the north of Chile. And let's see, there's some quite good shots of mountains and what have you um, from the plane. I took quite a lot, as you can tell. Uh, and here we are, finally. Okay, we've arrived uh, at Atacama, and this is one of the geysers at El Tatio, which means the old man. And there are many geysers there, and I went on a tour. Very well done. Um, and As you can see, there's plenty to look at. Let's try this one. Yeah, it was pretty cold. It was early morning. I think that tour left at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we had breakfast included in the tour. Um, it was a get your guide tour, um, and well, here is the it was the guide. I think her name was Julia, but she was from she's Chilean, but she's had a British education in at least at university level, Goldsmiths, I think she said, in London. And then yes, okay, so this is back in San Pedro de Atacama, which is where I ended up uh, after flying from Santiago, and a bus at night to San Pedro, and yeah, it was pretty good. Um, I'm not sure that all the photographs are here, but this is the second day tour that I took. I think it was Saturday, and this was quite spectacular as well. It was Baltinace, lagoons at Baltinace, and as you can see, the roads are pretty desolate. Incredible, really. Um, and I think there was some talk of the roads. Not they're not tarmac roads. These are made of ice and mud, so sometimes they melt and have to be resurfaced or something like that, if I understood correctly. The guide was very good. He knew his stuff. He also knew a lot about Pink Floyd, played a lot of Pink Floyd music, uh, which was, as the Japanese say, natsukashi. It was nostalgic for me anyway. There is the guide here. What was his name? I can't remember. Sorry. He was very good though. Um, and as you can see, we had to keep on the walkways, uh, going around this very, very dry area. I think Atacama Desert is the driest in the world now. Um, okay, and this is flying back to Santiago. You can see the wind turbines, and this was on LATAM, uh, which I like as an airline. I think it's a good airline. It's probably the best one in South America. Um, and then you can see how the the brown terrain changes to green as you get closer to Santiago. So this, yeah, that's coming into Santiago, I think. It's very green. Um, and okay, so this is a very famous tall building in Santiago. I'm not sure if it's still the tallest in South America. I think it might be. Um, didn't have time to go up it, but it's on YouTube. A lot of people have been up it. Um, and yeah, this was a golf course. This is Los Leones golf course. Um, and as you can see, it's built on a hill, and there's a porter's lodge here. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go in there to see the golf course or go to the club. Um, my grandfather's connections are not as clear with that club as they are with, for example, Santo Domingo, where he was the first president and the designer of the original course. However, I think my parents visited Los Leones back in the 1990s, and this is my mother with a cup named after my grandfather, the Alexander MacDonald Cup, about which I know very little at the moment, although I believe it's a national cup in Chile for golf. Um, this was my DD driver in for this particular day, or at least getting me back from the failure to enter the golf course, getting me back to the my hostel, the Hostel Castelletto, and we discovered that we both liked Mazda cars. I mean, he was driving a Mazda, which sort of gave the game away. But and then I had a rather good dinner, as you can see. Um, that was very good. Uh, let me see. That's salad there. But what did I have? Uh, yeah, that's meat, isn't it? Oh yes, it's done in a Spanish style, which I forget the name of. And a very good raspberry cake at the end. You don't get much raspberry in Japan, so that's quite a treat for me. Um, okay, so this now is flying back to um, from Santiago to Lima, and you can see again coming into Lima how brown the land is compared with Santiago. It's quite a stark contrast. All of this is coming into Lima. And yeah, that was my evening meal then in San Isidro. Um, the Anglo-American clinic where I was born is in San Isidro, and it's one of the two best areas of Lima, the other being Miraflores, where I stayed on the first night and another night. Um, they're both next to each other. They're next to each other, in fact. And okay, so this was a very good meal. My wife certainly approved of it. It's good apple pie to end it off. Actually, no, that one is spinach, I think. Yeah, that one very good. Um, and not expensive. The Peruvian meals cuisine is excellent. Now, again, this seems not to include all of the photographs, but this is Lima Golf Club, and my grandfather was treasurer and secretary of the golf club in the 1920s until moving to Chile in 1927, and then he became an honorary member. And I noticed on the note on the board, the next honorary member was the Prince of Wales, which quite amused me. Oh, and this is interesting. Um, these trophies were all won by one man, remarkably, and he died fairly recently and donated all of the trophies to the club. Um, yeah, I think that's the honorary member, socios honorarios. Um, and yeah, you can see 1929, Signor Alexander MacDonald. I don't know why he's got a hyphen, but he has. Followed by the Prince of Wales. I wasn't lying, was I? As the next honorary member in 1931, and then Prince George of England also in 1931. I see. Okay. Um, and this couple very kindly, Signor Ray and his wife, who's Thomas Ray Daly, and his wife very kindly showed me around the course. They drove me around in a golf cart, um, which is what also happened at Santo Domingo and Los Incas, as a matter of fact. So I didn't have time or opportunity to play any golf, but I certainly got to see the courses. And what a beautiful course Lima Golf Club is now, has now, I should say. It's overlooked. It's in the well, in built up area. It's overlooked by high buildings. So a little bit different to Los Leones, for example, or Santo Domingo. This is, yeah, hole number 10, named after Carlos Raffo Dasso, who was the gentleman who donated all his cups, or not all of them actually, even to the club. The photograph I showed you earlier. Now this uh, is it's all, I suppose you could call it a mural. Of course, it's a photograph originally, but it's sort of been blown up to a very large size and been put on a wall to celebrate the centenary of the club, which is this year. And I spotted my grandfather fairly instantly. There he is. I hope you can see my cursor. And that's my grandfather. Um, I knew exactly who he was or who it was right away. And the next photograph, it's got me more or less underneath him, just for reference, as it were. And yes, various photographs of the course. Um, oh, and then after that, I went shopping. Oh, that's a Japanese restaurant, by the way, in Lima. This one here, called Hanzo in San Isidro. I didn't try it, but I did go shopping in the supermarket, and I think I did fairly well. Prosciutto and avocado and all of these good things, because I was staying in I suppose you might even call it a one bedroom flat, or bedsit gives the wrong impression. I don't like the word bedsit in this context, but anyway, I was self-catering more or less. Um, Now this is a bar which I had dinner in, I think in Miraflores. So I also I had breakfast there on the first day, so I just wanted to go back for that. It was quite a lot more expensive to have dinner, of course. And it was a pretty good dinner. There we are. Nothing wrong with that. Um, and then we've got Mario Vargas Llosa. Uh, I'm trying to remember who that is. I think he's a literary figure in Peru. Um, Born in Arequipa in 1936. Yes. Um, Trying to remember where I saw this, but oh yes, I remember. It's in the center of Lima, and there's what used to be a railway station is now a house of literature or a palace of literature, and that's where that was. And the person who constructed the railway station is this person who was Malinowski, died in what's that, 1899. Ernesto Malinowski, a Polish gentleman. And this is from the center of Lima. I I went there directly from Callao, uh, where I had family business, as it were, finding a grave of an aunt. Um, and so this is all in the center of Lima. Um, I'm sure some of you will know these buildings well. Um, uh, the cathedral, yes, I was most impressed by the cathedral. Um, I'm sure that the Spaniards intended everybody to be very impressed as well. The Incas and local people. Um, they had a lot of side chapels in this cathedral, very, very ornate, as you can see. Um, a real statement on behalf of Spain uh, regarding their colony. And then there's a library inside the cathedral, which is a little unusual, I find. And these photographs, you were invited to sit on a couple of seats. There were two seats. Take your photograph and then post your photograph to Instagram. Well, I haven't got round to that yet. I suppose I have to find the cathedral's Instagram. Um, but yeah, that was great. I was leaving the library by the staircase, and then this is from the organ loft. You can see how substantial. That's a panorama, of course. You can see how substantial the cathedral is. Um, okay, and what else? Yeah, lots of history, of course, in the center of Lima. Um, yes, coming up, the Cathedral of the Good Shepherd. Um, I think it must have been that same day that I walked past this Anglican church, which turned out to be the Cathedral of the Good Shepherd. And it just struck me, I wonder if I was baptized there. And I also wondered if my grandparents had been married there. And I was correct on both points, in fact, um, interestingly. And the following day, I think this might be the day that I went there by appointment. And the deacon was a lovely man from Texas. Bliss is his name. Yeah, that's the video there. He gave me a little bit of a guided tour, and that's the baptismal font where I was baptized. Unfortunately, the silver bowl was stolen, apparently. So that's why they keep it under an altar now. Anyway, very fine chapel. These were the priests. There's a list of the priests, and the one who baptized me was Albert E. Keene. It was 1957, January the 19th, for those who care about that sort of thing. Well, I suppose I do a little bit, but um, yeah. And there we are. That's the marriage register showing my grandparents uh, were married in that church on June 24th, 1922. That's me with Bliss. Very fine gentleman he is. And then, this, they they printed out for me a proof of my baptism in Spanish, which I will treasure for the rest of my life, obviously. This is the entry in the book, number 1307, for what it's worth. It's funny to discover all these things. I've not been back to Peru since I was born. Well, I was there for about a year, I think, and then my parents took me to England, and grew up and educated in England, and was there until about age 30, and then on to Japan. So anyway, but San Isidro there is a lovely area, and it's full of olive trees. This is the oldest one, I think, in the park. Well, there's a park nearby to where I was staying anyway. And there were also saffron finches, very cute little birds. Um, excuse me. This is a trip I took on an Uber to Chosica because I understand that my grandfather, because of his asthma, found Lima difficult to live in. Um, he had asthma from a gas attack in World War One, and so in after marriage in 1922, my grandparents moved to Chosica, which is a kind of not really a suburb. It's a bit far away for it to be a suburb of Lima, but it's part of Lima department, I think. So this was a journey out to Chosica to see what it was like, simply. A bit curious. Um, and it was rather different. The air is certainly different to Lima, which is more, it's coastal, so it's more humid. Um, this is simply noticing a Japanese machine. Kobelco is Kobe steel, and of course that's well known to me. But Chosica, you can see the mountains around Chosica are quite bare and brown, which is quite interesting to say the least. Um, and I spent some time walking around Chosica. I even went to the city hall and asked them, by any chance, do you have any records of my grandparents living here in the 1920s? And of course, the city hall as it is now doesn't. Um, I was thinking more in terms of archives and museums and things, but they weren't open. So I'm attempting, or I have attempted, to contact them by email subsequently to pursue the matter, but no answer at this time. I had a lovely meal in Chosica, not intended for tourists, I think. This was only 10 soles for this wonderful meal. Um, and really, if you're a tourist, you should be paying more than that. But I was not in a tourist area. I did say that I thought it was worth more than that, and that I was willing to pay more, but I don't think they wanted to have more. They were just a very humble people. Um, I should have, in retrospect, left a tip under the plate because they wouldn't take a tip either. But anyway, that's the way it is with some people. It was a great meal, very memorable. Um, yes. Uh, well, this is the Museo Larco, I think, um, which is a very substantial museum of Inca and pre-Inca uh, relics and artifacts in Lima. And it's one of the must-see museums in Lima. I took an awful lot of photographs here, and as you can see, lots of precious items, very precious. Um, I'm getting better at doing this, aren't I? Well, this is better than the first video, I think. um, yeah, you can see all this sort of thing. Quite fantastic stuff. And they have no objection, apparently, to people photographing, which is unusual. I mean, you've even got explanations in Japanese there. What's that? Uh, well, might as well take a look since, yeah. So they have explanations in various languages. Um, Gold headdresses. Quite remarkable what they have here. Um, what's that? Probably explains it in the next photograph. Yes, gold ornaments, Nazca, fluorescent epoch, 1 AD to 800 AD. So, of course, walking around a place like this, you simply don't have time to take things in properly, which is why I took all these photographs. Very kind of them to let me do so. Um, and then this is another museum, I think. Yes. This is the History and Archaeology and Anthropology Museum. This, I think, is, let me see, let me get this right. Um, this is Jose de San Martin. And quite interestingly, quite amusingly, Peru is the only South American country, according to what I learned from the guide at this museum, it's the only South American country which has two founders. This chap, Jose de San Martin, and the man Bernardo O'Higgins, who founded 6 or 7, I think, of the countries in South America. Um, but how you sort out two founders, I'm not quite sure. Um, and okay, so um, this is going back now to this is the restaurant where which I spent time at in Lima Airport when I was waiting for my suitcase. Sky Airlines uh, from Cusco to Lima managed to lose not only my suitcase but various other people's suitcases, at least temporarily. And so what they did, they put them on the next flight. So while I was waiting for my suitcase and hoping that it would be on the next flight, I ate here, which was very good actually. Um, don't forget the propina, the tip. They were quite keen on their tip in this particular place, but it was worth it. So I don't. I mean, in Japan we just don't give tips. It's not a thing, but in South America it clearly is. All right, so this was waiting. Yeah, I was trying to use up my last few notes, Peruvian soles, and so I had this meal. And okay, this, for what it's worth, is the coastline, the Californian coastline coming into land at LAX, Los Angeles. And you're greeted with this large American flag at the Tom Bradley terminal. Please have your documents completed and ready. Well, indeed. And we're getting near to the end now. I haven't really covered the stargazing tour at San Pedro de Atacama, which was quite outstanding. The photographs from that, well, quite difficult for me to photograph with iPhone 11, but they took one very good one of me. They they took one of everybody, and I haven't got it in this because these are the photos I took, I think, only. Right, Asiana, flying to Incheon. It says on time. In the end, it wasn't on time, which created a bit of a problem for me at the other end because the connection was already very tight. I'd been worrying about this for quite some time. I only had 45 minutes on the connection between, arriving from Los Angeles at Incheon and flying on to Fukuoka. And I'd already discussed this with Asiano, who'd said, well, that is the minimum time allowed for transit. Well, in fact, the plane out of Los Angeles was late anyway by I think 30 minutes or so. So I thought, well, that's really going to make it impossible. But in actual fact, miracle of miracles, I did make the Fukuoka flight. But that's another story, as they say. I wonder if that's the last available photograph in this particular series on Google Photos. Might be. Yeah, I think it is. Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Good. So let's stop the share for a moment. You can see I've got the Aurora Borealis as a background. So you didn't get stargazing in this video, but you have got a virtual background of Aurora Borealis. So I suppose that'll have to do. Sorry about that. Good. So that's really the end of my photographs. As I say, there are other photographs that I took which are not included in that selection that I've just given you, but I think that's probably enough, isn't it? All right, so I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you very much. See you next time.